Hey everybody, this is another TechBiz tutorial, one for Adobe Photoshop CS 5.5, and we're going to do just a little photo manipulation here, showing how to add water with a realistic reflection and ripple effect, and using a few other tools as well. So this is just a picture from a car, and if I wanted to make the road and the car and all that stuff go away and make it look like there was a river or a lake there. This is how you could do that. So I opened up my picture. You notice I have the little lock on there that shows up. So I'm going to right click, convert to smart object, and then rasterize layer. And what I want to do first is I want to just kind of clean up the picture a little bit. So up here there's a rear view mirror. I'm just using my spot healing brush. Okay, got rid of that. There's a few bug splatters on the window and a few marks on there. It doesn't have to be perfect in this case. It'll also work with that road sign there. Okay, and then I'm going to use my polygon lasso tool. Usually if you want to add water, you'd like to use this rectangle tool and select, but in this case it's not something that, I'm still going to have parts of that road and it's going to be kind of hard to take out. So instead what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use my polygon lasso tool. And so I am going to go just kind of along the horizon here. And I'm going to delete that. And I still have that car right there, so I'm going to use my clone stamp since it's on the edge and it'll be kind of hard to take out otherwise. Alright, and now it's hard to see that anything was there. Okay, so I want to duplicate, or I want to duplicate this layer, but I want to have some more room for it. So I'm going to go to Image, and I'm going to go to Canvas Size. I'm going to just double the height for right now, or close to it. Okay, 16, and I didn't anchor it from the top. So I'm just going to move this up here towards the top. And again, this is kind of smudgy. Alright, so this looks pretty good. Up at the top, I'm going to duplicate this layer now. That's going to be my reflection. Alright, and I hit Control T, and I'm just going to bring this shape down. It doesn't need to be the exact. I think it looks better if it's not exactly the same size for the reflection. That's just me. I could be completely wrong, but that's just how I prefer it. Okay, and like I was saying before, normally you want the rectangle shape that we cut out. I have the weird shape here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of select little bits and pieces of this picture and try to get it to fit as best that I can. Alright, so I selected it. I'm going to hit Control T, and I'm going to drag it down by holding Control, and that allows me to kind of warp that a little bit. And actually it would probably work better even if I cut and then paste, and that way it's on its own layer. Okay, so now I'll hit Control T and hit Control. Okay, that works pretty good. So now I'm going to go back to my layer 0 and find the next place where it would be best to transform it. You hit Edit Cut, Edit Paste, get it on its own layer again, and I'm just going to try to match it up as best that I can. It's not going to be perfect. You know, this is just for practice anyway. And then I have my last layer on the edge. I'm going to hit Control T. I don't need to put it on its own layer. And just try to get the mountain right here to line up well. Okay, and I think this will work for us. So I have those done. Now I want them to be on the same major, or on the same layer, I'm sorry. So I right click, merge layers. All right, and I have a water reflection layer. Okay, I'm also going to crop the picture now, since I know how far the image is going to go down. And I'm going to go up to image and then crop, and we're set. Okay, the next thing I need to do is I need to make a distortion map for the ripples. Okay, so I created a new layer, shift backspace, and I'm going to fill it with white. I'm going to go up to filter, and I'm going to go add noise, and I have it as Gaussian blur. You could use either one. I just like Gaussian blur. Monochromatic you want, and I'm just going with where I had it at 51.85. I can see the noise on there, and that's all I need to do. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go back up to filter, and I'm going to go to sketch, and I'm going to go to bas relief, and I can change the detail 5 and 10 where I had it. Looks pretty good. I like to have it lighter towards the bottom, since that's where we would be looking. It's going to be lighter and there will be more shadows the further away we go. And it's something you can always go back and change your distortion map if you don't like it. You know, it's on its own layer, so it's real easy to fix and to play around with, fun to play around with. Alright, I'm going to go back up to filter, and I'm going to go to blur, and I want to use motion blur, and I have a 0-degree angle, and mine right now is at 118, which looks good. The further left you go, the more it looked like before. The further right you go, it looks kind of streaky. So, you know, you just want to kind of get to that point where it kind of starts to look like you have some waves on there. I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to save this as, and I'm going to just save it to my desktop, and I'm going to call it a bunch of letter A's. If I wanted to, I should name it properly, but I want to make sure I find it easily. So save as a PSD, click OK, and now I'm going to make it invisible. I'm not going to erase the layer just in case I goof up and I need it later. Okay, I'm going to go back up to filter. I have my water layer selected. I'm going to go back up to filter, and I want to go to distort. And they do have ocean ripple, and I just have never really liked how it looked. I'm going to go to glass, and yours is probably going to have one of these settings on it, and it's not going to look the way we want it. Alright, so I'm going to go to load texture, and here's my map that I'm going to use, and it looks a lot more like water ripples. I have my distortion at 17 and smoothness at 8 and scaling at 108%, just because I tried this out earlier before the tutorial to see how it looked, and I thought that looked okay. So you can change yours, and it's something, again, you can always go back and undo it and change and try it again. I'm going to click OK, and now I have some water ripples underneath my layer. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to double click my layer. It's really hard to tell sometimes where the water is and where the reflection is. There's not that clear line. So there's a few things we can do to this. I'm going to put a gradient overlay. I'm going to use black to transparent, and I'm going to click OK, And I like it to be the other way around, like I mentioned earlier. I want there to be more shadows on up towards the shoreline, so I'm going to click reverse, and it flips that around, and that's way too dark, obviously. And so I'm going to go up to blend mode, and I'm going to choose soft light, and then you can change the opacity to how you want that, so where you can kind of make it a little bit darker. Another thing that I like to do is use a color overlay, and I want to choose just kind of like a drabby grayish blue. You know, water's never going to be perfect blue in this situation, so I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to use my opacity and bring that down, and just to add just a hint of that color that kind of blends it in and makes it look a little bit more like water. Okay, you can also hit Control L to change your levels if you want the whole thing to still be just a little bit darker. I'll click OK and do that. And the last thing just kind of involves cleaning up the image a little bit. So I'm going to drop down the opacity of my layer just to make sure I don't go too far down, and you can see where that doesn't really look very good where it was at. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of clean up this image just a little bit more to make it look a little bit better. I almost made a big mistake there. I don't know what I was doing. Okay, so I want to select the top part. Alright, so I'm just going right where that shoreline is. Okay, and then I'm going to hit delete just to kind of clean that image up a little bit, and then I can bring the opacity back up to the top. And there I have my picture. So again, using multiple layers, using a distortion map, and just kind of playing around with the filters, we're able to modify a picture to make it look like it has water with a realistic ripple and reflection effect. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and we'll talk to you later.